A Dutch artist named Adelbert Pfeiffer painted more than 50 of those. He did not tie those to movies, and he never met Ava. What he did do in a couple is put something odd. The first one on the left, she has a mouse running up her arm, and the one in the middle, she's sitting on a table that has no legs. The other two are okay.
Ava Lavinia Gardner was born on Christmas Eve, 1922, in a North Carolina town so small it wasn't even on the map.
Drabtown was nothing more than the farmhouse in which Ava was born, a few small tenant houses, a cotton gin, and a tiny little church. She was the baby of the family. She had 4 older sisters and an older brother. When she was born, her mother was 39, so Ava was quite a midlife surprise.
Ava's father, Jonas Bailey Gardner, was a poor tenant farmer who labored hard to keep his 6 children safe and well.
Ava's house had no indoor plumbing, so in modern standards, they might be considered poor, but they were certainly rich in love of a close family.
She was very, very loved and probably spoiled. She was mischievous and she was outside all the time, and she loved to be barefooted.
But as Ava became a beautiful young woman, her protective mother laid down the law when it came to boys.
Ava came home with a young man one night, and he gave her a kiss on the porch. Well, pretty soon the door opened and kabang, slam, here came Mrs. Gardner.
Ava had one crush that her mother didn't discourage. Both of them adored Clark Gable and the other larger-than-life stars whose movies offered weekly escape from their stressful lives.
You talk too much, but you're a cute little trick at that.
In 1940, the 17-year-old earned good grades in a secretarial course at Atlantic Christian College, not far from home. But Ava's life was about to take a dramatic turn.
She went up to New York to visit her sister, Bappy, the sister she was closest to. She'd never been to New York before. She was very excited. Bappy was married to a photographer, and he took her picture.
She had on a big picture hat. It was looked a little like Scarlett O'Hara because Gone with the Wind had just come out that year.
He put the picture in the window of his photography shop, and someone from MGM saw the picture and asked her to test.
During her New York screen test, the astonished Ava could barely speak. When she did, the MGM talent scout could barely understand.
Her accent was so thick they couldn't understand the words she said. So they said, just forget that, just walk back and forth. So it was a silent test, but based on her beauty, she was offered an MGM contract.
For Ava, a studio contract and a salary of $50 a week seemed an amazing once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But her ailing mother was fiercely opposed.
So Bappy said, this is her great chance. I'll go with her and make sure everything's okay. And so they boarded a train for Hollywood.
The 18-year-old's remarkable beauty turned heads even at MGM. Among those mesmerized by her was the studio's #1 star, 20-year-old Mickey Rooney.
They were taking her around the lot and seeing what was being filmed, and he was doing a comedy scene where he was dressed like Carmen Miranda.
She came onto the set, and I went bang. It was just incredible. She was a beautiful lady, and I asked her for a phone number, and she said no, and I said, please, and she said, well, all right, you can call me. So I called her, and I asked her out for dinner, and she said, no, I don't want to go out with you. We had dinner and 4 more dates and 5 more dates, and I asked her to marry me.
Ava was also not wanting to do anything that her mother would approve of. But Mickey Rooney was very persistent, and he ended up actually marrying her, though they needed Louis B. Mayer's permission.
Sooner or later, the studio, Ava, and they all gave in, and we were married in Ballard, California. Just Ava and my mother and her mother and 1,400 press agents.
would like to thank everybody for their many good wishes, especially our boss, Mr. Lewis B. Mack. Thank you very much.
Within 1 year, Ava Gardner had gone from total obscurity to being the wife of one of the world's most famous men. The 19-year-old would have preferred to stay home and start a family, but MGM had hired her to work, and in 1942, she nervously began her apprenticeship as an actress with a string of small roles in B-movies. But if Ava was insecure about acting, she wasn't shy about facing problems at home. After 1 year, her marriage to Mickey Rooney was in trouble.
She went into marriage thinking it would be somewhat like her parents' marriage. She wanted to stay home and cook fried chicken for Mickey. He wanted to go out partying.
For Ava, her decision to divorce was a crushing admission of failure. Her crumbling sense of self was damaged even more by the death from cancer of her beloved mother. But Ava wasn't afraid to stand up to unwanted admirers, even if they inspired fear in others. The most persistent was billionaire aviator and film producer Howard Hughes, who became obsessed with the gorgeous starlet.
Howard Hughes was like the man who came to dinner in Ava's life. He just would never go away. He had all the money in the world at his disposal, but they never had any kind of real relationship.
Howard Hughes pursued her off and on for 20 years, and Ava said she never really cared that much for Howard.
They had big fights. She hit him on the head after one argument with an enormous bell and knocked him out. And according to her, was so angry at him that she would have killed him if someone hadn't stopped her.
Hughes fought a losing battle. 23-year-old Ava was in love with another charismatic celebrity, band leader and clarinet great Artie Shaw. 34-year-old Shaw had already been married 4 times. His past wives included Ava's friend, actress Lana Turner. The band leader wasn't ready for another marriage, so this time, the increasingly independent Ava began a passionate romance without a wedding ring. Artie and Ava secretly moved in together, an act that could have destroyed her career, until in 1945, when Gardner embarked on her second marriage. That same year, the struggling actress was loaned to Universal Pictures for an intriguing film noir based on a story by Ernest Hemingway. In The Killers, Gardner played an irresistible femme fatale who double-crosses the thief who worships her, played by Burt Lancaster in his film debut.
Jake tells me you're a fighter.
Do you like the fights?
I'm afraid I've never seen one.
No kidding.
I hate brutality, Mr. Anderson. The idea of 2 men beating each other to a pulp makes me ill.
The Killers was a key film for her. She's talked about it as the first film that she really enjoyed acting in. She played a very beautiful, very glamorous character. For the first time, she just really blew people away with the way she looked.
Released in 1946, The Killers was a critical and commercial smash, and its success made MGM realize that 24-year-old Ava Gardner had the makings of a star. Although Ava Gardner had grabbed Hollywood's notice with her performance in The Killers, the actress's home life was again in turmoil. The 24-year-old felt dominated and intellectually intimidated by her husband, Artie Shaw, despite her best efforts to educate herself. In 1946, Shaw stunned his wife of 1 year by asking for a divorce. Ava remembered it as one of the most painful moments of her life. But as Gardner faced another heartbreak, she also began one of her most enduring friendships. Marion Jordan entered Ava's world as a housekeeper and assistant.
We just hit it off like that. She was like my sister. When I went in for the interview, she said, "Do you know how to make a martini?" And I said, "Martini? No." And she said, "Well, I can show you." And from then on, I was in.
Within a year, Ava's life was getting back on track. In 1947, she was amazed to be cast opposite her childhood idol Clark Gable in the big-budget romantic comedy The Hucksters.
You could be a lot of help to a guy like me, couldn't you?
In what way?
Oh, in the business way, naturally.
Want a secretary, Mr. Nolan?
How's your shorty?
Some people like it.
But it was Ava's next affair that made headlines around the world. Gardner had first met Frank Sinatra during her marriage to Mickey Rooney. By 1949, Ava was twice divorced, and the married Sinatra had plummeted from superstar to a near has-been.
The nature of the two people made a lot of headlines. They were both rambunctious, both dynamite, and both highly emotional. You put two sticks of dynamite together and you get an explosion.
I blatantly asked her, "Are you sure you love that guy? He's so skinny." And she assured me that she loved him very deeply, and I think she always did.
She was the love of his life, and he was the love of her life. And I once said, "What about Nancy, Frank?" And he said, "Oh, I'll always love Nancy because she's the mother of my children." And he did love Nancy, but Ava was the great love of his life.
In 1950, 27-year-old Ava Gardner received the most challenging role of her career so far. She was cast as an alcoholic torch singer in MGM's lavish film of the Broadway musical Showboat. The movie co-starred Katherine Grayson, Howard Keel, and Margin Gower Champion, and it featured one of America's most beloved music scores.
Doing Showboat, we had such fun. She was so fun. She had a great sense of humor.
Full of help, and a great gal to be with. She was open to anything. Swore all the time, almost as much as me. We'd sit and have a little tequila now and then.
In 1951, Gardner was thrilled to marry for the third time. She was convinced that this marriage would last. Her happiness carried over onto the set of her next film. The Snows of Kilimanjaro paired Gardner with Gregory Peck in Ernest Hemingway's story of a tragic love affair.
Please. Thanks. I'm Cynthia Green.
Sin, that's nice. When did you come here?
2 minutes ago.
I'll be
The following year, MGM sent 29-year-old Ava to Africa to co-star once again with Clark Gable in Magambo.
I warn you, I'm looking, I'm searching, I really am.
I'll look with you for a little while.
Ava's earthy performance inspired her best reviews to date and her only Oscar nomination for Best Actress. But Gardner remained insecure about her abilities, and after a year of marriage to Frank Sinatra, she was becoming unhappy at home. In 1953, Ava used her star power to get Sinatra an audition for the big-budget drama From Here to Eternity. Frank got the part and won an Oscar, putting his career back on top.
I'm deeply thrilled, and I'm very moved, and I really don't know what to say.
Ava wanted him to succeed, but his success just seemed to unavoidably add another stress to their lives. They had too many career demands, they were too jealous, the world's press wouldn't leave them alone.
After less than 2 years of marriage, Sinatra and Gardner announced their separation in 1953. The divorce was finalized in 1957, but the bonds between them were never completely broken.
Frank, she told me, was her one true love. They couldn't live together, and they couldn't live without each other, and that was the problem. They were too much alike.
Ava was eager to build a new life for herself, far from the glare of Hollywood. Spain became her home, a place where her passion for living could be indulged to the fullest.
She came into her own in Spain. It was pretty heady stuff. This was a place that she would move to.
number one, to get away from Frank, and to have a new life in Spain. And of course, the bullfighters helped.
Eva embarked on a torrid affair with famed bullfighter Luis Miguel Dominguin. She also spent time with her friend Ernest Hemingway, who was pleased when Eva starred in the 1957 film of his novel, The Sun Also Rises. The actress was perfectly cast in the part of Lady Brett Ashley, an aristocratic beauty with a taste for alcohol, bullfights, and bullfighters. As she approached her 40th birthday, the financially secure actress chose to make fewer films. Most, like the dramas On the Beach and 55 Days at Peking, were filmed far from America. The further Gardner was from Hollywood, the more confident she felt as an actress. After a decade of drinking, partying, and men, 46-year-old Ava Gardner said goodbye to Spain and began a more sedate life in London. But by 1972, as she entered her 50s, that life was increasingly lonely.
She loved her dogs very dearly. They were her children. That's what she told me once. They're my babies.
To have had a family, she often said that that would have been her first choice, but it was not in the cards for her, and so she made the best of what she had.
One day my daddy, who was in his late 70s at the time, he asked, "How does it feel to be so rich and famous?" And Ava smiled as she looked at him and says, "Ah, Sheffy, I'm just an old broad who gets her picture taken off."
On January 25, 1990, Ava Gardner died of pneumonia in London 1 month after her 67th birthday. 4 days later, she was laid to rest in North Carolina beside her mother and father.
She always said she wanted to come back home and be buried with Mom and Daddy. Ava is back home with the family.
One floral display at her funeral bore a simple note, "With my love, Francis."
Being married to Ava Gardner was one of the most memorable moments of my life, and I wish her well wherever she is.
Ava had a great zest for life. A lot of people go through this world, and they exist. Truly, my friend, I can tell you that Ava Gardner lived.
Has his time all booked up. Jim's out of town, Miss Almond.
living generations in Ava. So she is.
So that was the coolest thing ever. A 5-year-old, which is how old I was. So I spent most of my time focusing on that.
I've only ever had one friend not help me.
Laid the path for my life with technology.
Thanks for saving 1917.
But I do remember
It's good.
meetings that I did have with